him. I think with Bryan, it's going to be less about the storyline and more about what he can bring, kind of, to the in-ring action. Like Punk is like the bigger news story, I suppose, whereas Bryan is the the person that you could kind of just fit in anywhere on the roster. And maybe sort of teach a few of them a thing or two about how to wrestle.
And do you think at this stage of his career, Bryan is now in the same stratosphere as Punk is a promo? Or do you think Punk still has a little bit of an edge over him in that department?
I think Punk probably does have a little bit of an edge over him still, but I don't think there's too much difference between them anymore. I think Bryan's mic work is a hell of a lot better when he's a heel, though.
Absolutely, I agree with you. When he was the world champion heel, I think like his promos were the thing that I looked most forward to on SmackDown.
Yeah. I've always said like anyone who can go from being the most over babyface in the business to becoming like a genuinely like a heel that people like to boo, and that's got to be a result of just natural talent. You can't fake that.
He just gets how to manipulate a crowd and how to get them invested in what he's doing and get the desired response from him, which is sadly a skill set lost to the mists of time in professional wrestling.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting question now that you've raised it, like Punk versus Bryan on the mic, because both men are better or more effective as heels. I think we can both agree on that. But when they're both baby faces, I would actually probably give the edge to Bryan. There's just something about Punk's delivery as a babyface that he it feels too much like a square peg in a round hole. He's certainly not a bad promo as a face, but I actually think Bryan is better in that sense. So I think it's kind of 50-50 with them at the minute.
Yeah, I think Punk only really works as a babyface in a certain setting. I mean, once you took him out of that sort of anti-authority role, I didn't think Punk was an outstanding babyface. It's as a heel where he really truly shines.
Yeah. I mean, and that's a good point as well, because we could probably say that the heights of both Bryan and Punk's careers in WWE were when they were like seen to be railing against some kind of an authority figure, and you don't really have that in AEW. So you've kind of taken away what kind of made them, or what brought them to the dance, so to speak, with WWE. So I do wonder how well they're going to fare without that kind of machine to rail against, because I'm not advocating for AEW to kind of bring in an authority figure like the WWE have relied on for so long. I don't necessarily want to see that, but it just feels like they're both going to have to pull out something a little bit more like from their arsenal to really get themselves over. They don't have that leg up of being the kind of anti Vince McMahon or anti Triple H figure anymore.
That's fair. That's why I think it's so much easier for Punk to go back to WWE and be an instant success, because a WrestleMania match with Roman Reigns is sort of writes itself. Like he can he can go into that sort of anti-hero mode, or not anti-hero. He can go into sort of into rebel mode and just cut promos about Roman Reigns being the chosen one and being the handpicked guy and all that stuff, and it just works.
Like personally, I still think he will eventually come back into the fold. Like I can see Punk being inducted into the Hall of Fame at some point. Whether that comes too late for him to have an in-ring return to WWE, I still suspect that he's going to end up like similar to Bret Hart. Kind of came back on a very sort of short-term deal in terms of in-ring action, but then was got quite a lot of TV time. So yeah, like Punk joining AEW in itself is a big thing, but I still think that the bigger, like the ultimate conclusion to his wrestling career is going to be him coming back into WWE at some point.
Oh, without question. I think even Daniel Bryan has to go back to the WWE at some point to do to do one last run.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But if nothing else, it's given me a reason. Like I will be genuinely like tuning into AEW to watch what they do with these guys. So they've certainly like brought me into the fold. I can't guarantee how long I'm going to stay around, or whether I'll watch any of the other bits of the shows. But you know, they can kind of add me to their viewing figures if they want to.
They could add me onto the viewing figures for a couple of months if they promise not to feature the Young Bucks or Omega.
Yeah, I could maybe this is just what we need. Like maybe Punk and Bryan are going to come in and like steal enough of the spotlight off of Omega and the Young Bucks, where they're going to go, you know what, we're going to go and form our own wrestling company called the like Super Elite Wrestling. And it's just exclusively on YouTube, and nobody gives a shit about it. You know? That would be lovely to see.
It might even be an animated series about wrestling, where like Kenny Omega and the Bucks wrestle like anime characters from Japan.
Would you like to see Kenny Omega versus Vegeta in the right to save the universe match? I'd like to see that.
The Young Bucks versus Pikachu and Bulbasaur.
You know, they're not going to put themselves to lose either, so, you know. They're going to have to reach a certain sort of Super Saiyan level that we've never seen before.